My name is Rachel, and at 32, my life was a delicate balance of love, work, and family. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 8 years. While our marriage wasn't perfect, I believed we had a strong partnership until everything began to unravel. Daniel had a 14-year-old son, Jack, from his previous marriage. When I first met Jack, he was shy and polite, and over time, we built a relationship. I treated him like my own child, helping with homework, attending his soccer games, and making his favorite meals on weekends. But despite my efforts, there were times Jack would remind me that I wasn't his real mom. I chalked it up to teenage angst and brushed it off. Things started to shift when Daniel's sister, Clara, moved back to town. While Clara and I had always been cordial, there was an underlying tension. She was fiercely protective of Daniel and had never fully accepted me into the family. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Clara casually brought up Jack. "Jack's been telling me he feels uncomfortable here, Rachel," Clara said, her tone heavy with concern. I was taken aback. "Uncomfortable? Is that true, Jack?" Jack hesitated, glancing at Clara. I don't know. Sometimes," he mumbled. Clara quickly added, "See, kids pick up on things. Rachel, maybe you're too strict with him." The accusation hit me like a punch to the gut. I had always been fair and loving toward Jack, and now I felt blindsided. But Daniel sat there, silent, offering no defense. A week later, Clara hosted a family gathering, and I noticed the subtle glances and hushed whispers exchanged behind my back. Daniel's aunt approached me and said, "Rachel, I hope you're not too hard on Jack. He's just a child." That's when it hit me. Clara had been spreading rumors about me mistreating Jack. I confronted Daniel later that night. "Why didn't you defend me when Clara accused me of making Jack uncomfortable?" I asked, my voice shaky. Daniel sighed. "Rachel, Jack's been acting distant lately. Maybe Clara has a point." My heart sank. I've done nothing but care for Jack like my own. "Why are you doubting me?" He didn't respond, and in that silence, I could feel the foundation of our marriage cracking. The next morning, as I was preparing breakfast, I overheard Jack on the phone. "She's so fake," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Clara said I should tell Dad how unhappy I am. Maybe they'll split up." The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. The boy I had cared for, loved, and nurtured was being manipulated by Clara. That afternoon, Daniel came home early. "We need to talk," he said, his expression serious. I braced myself. "About what?" "Jack told me he doesn't feel safe here." "Clara agrees. Maybe it's best if you take a break from the house for a while." I was speechless. "You want me to leave my own home based on lies?" Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's not permanent, just until things settle down." Packing my bags felt like living in a nightmare. As I closed the door behind me, I swore this wouldn't be the end of my story. I wasn't going to let Clara destroy everything I had worked for. Sitting in my car, a small suitcase beside me, my mind raced between fury and heartbreak. My home had been taken from me, not by an external force, but by the people I trusted the most. I checked into a modest motel across town. The room was quiet, but my thoughts were anything but. Clara's manipulation of Daniel and Jack had turned my life upside down, and I needed answers. The next morning, I called my best friend, Mia. I recounted everything that had happened, my voice trembling. "This is ridiculous, Rachel," Mia fumed. "You've been nothing but good to that boy. Clara's jealousy has been brewing for years, and now she's using Jack to drive a wedge between you and Daniel." "I feel so powerless," I admitted. Mia's voice grew firm. "You're not powerless. You need to fight back. Start by gathering proof that you've done nothing wrong." Her words sparked something in me. I wasn't the villain Clara had painted me to be. It was time to uncover the truth. Over the next few days, I gathered evidence, talking to Jack's teachers, coaches, and even his friends' parents. Every conversation painted the same picture. I was a caring stepmother who always put Jack's needs first. "I can't believe they're accusing you of mistreatment," one parent said. "Jack always speaks highly of you." The most telling moment came when I visited Clara's neighbor, Mrs. Benson, a nosy but kind older woman who seemed to know everything about everyone. When I mentioned Clara's name, Mrs. Benson chuckled. "Oh, Clara?" she said. "She's always meddling. I overheard her telling a friend about a plan to protect Jack from you." Nonsense, if you ask me. It was clear Clara's manipulation wasn't just a suspicion. It was real. I decided to meet Jack after school. He looked surprised to see me but agreed to talk. "Jack, I need to ask you something," I said gently. "Do you really feel unsafe with me? Or is someone telling you to say that?" Jack shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I don't know. Clara said you might be trying to replace my mom." My heart shattered. "Jack, I would never try to replace your mom. I care about you because you're part of our family. Clara is wrong to put those ideas in your head." He didn't respond, but his silence spoke volumes. Clara's influence wasn't just about me, it was about sowing doubt in Jack's mind. Armed with the evidence, I wasn't going to let Clara's lies tear my life apart. It was time to take control of my own story. I had gathered everything I needed, and I knew it was time to confront Daniel. I invited him to meet me at a local coffee shop. "Rachel, what is this about?" he asked, his tone tired. I placed a stack of papers in front of him, testimonies from teachers, neighbors, and even screenshots of Clara's social media posts that subtly undermined me. "This is about the lies that have torn our home apart," I said, my voice firm. Daniel flipped through the pages, looking conflicted. "I didn't know," he murmured. "Because you didn't want to know," I snapped, cutting him off. "You let Clara manipulate you and Jack, and you didn't even question it." The weight of my words seemed to land on him. He paused for a moment before responding. "I'll talk to Clara." "Talking isn't enough," I said, my voice breaking. "You need to decide where your loyalty lies, with the truth or with Clara's lies." In the days that followed, I waited anxiously, hoping Daniel would take action, but his silence spoke volumes. He avoided my calls, and Jack's texts became few and far between. It felt like I was screaming into the void, but I wasn't ready to give up. Clara's lies couldn't go unchallenged. If Daniel wouldn't stand up for me, I would fight for myself. One afternoon, Mia called with urgency in her voice. "Rachel, you won't believe what I found," she said. "Clara's been bragging about her success to her friends. She thinks she's won." Mia sent me screenshots of Clara's messages in a private group chat. Her words were venomous. I told Daniel exactly what he needed to hear. "Rachel will be out for good soon. Jack finally sees her for who she is." I made sure of that. My blood boiled. Clara wasn't just meddling, she was orchestrating a campaign to ruin me. It was time to confront her directly. I drove to Clara's house, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and determination. When she opened the door, her smug expression didn't faze me. "Rachel," she said coolly, "what brings you here?" "Cut the act, Clara," I snapped. "I know what you've been doing. You've poisoned Jack against me and manipulated Daniel. Now I have proof." Her smile faltered for a moment before she crossed her arms. "Proof of what?" "I'm just protecting my nephew from someone who clearly doesn't belong in his life." Her words stung, but I held my ground. "This isn't about Jack. It's about your jealousy and your need to control everything. You're hurting him more than you're helping." Clara's face turned red with anger. "Get off my property," she hissed. You have no idea what you're talking about. But I did, and now I had the evidence to back it up. After leaving Clara's house, I reached out to Jack's therapist, Dr. Harris. I've been hesitant to intervene, Dr. Harris admitted, but it's clear Jack is caught in the middle of a toxic situation. He's confused and being influenced by conflicting narratives. Dr. Harris agreed to facilitate a family session, including Clara. It was a long shot, but I hoped it would force her to face the damage she'd caused. The session was tense from the start. Clara arrived with an air of superiority, while Daniel looked uncomfortable. Jack sat quietly, avoiding my gaze. Dr. Harris began gently. We're here to create a space for honesty and healing. Let's start by discussing Jack's feelings. Jack hesitated before speaking. I don't know what to think, he said. Clara says one thing, but I remember when Rachel helped me with my school project and took me to the park when I was sad. My heart swelled at his words, but Clara quickly cut in. Jack, don't forget how she's tried to replace your mother. Enough, Clara, I said, my voice firm. This isn't about replacing anyone. It's about creating a family where everyone feels safe and loved. Dr. Harris turned to Clara. Your influence on Jack is undeniable, but it's important to consider how your actions might be impacting him negatively. For the first time, Clara looked uncertain. The session ended with no clear resolution, but the cracks in Clara's facade were starting to show. Later that evening, Daniel called me. I've been blind, he admitted. Clara's been manipulating all of us. I should have stood up for you. I wanted to believe him, but trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. Actions speak louder than words. Daniel, I said, if you want to fix this, you need to show me and Jack that you're committed to the truth. The next day, Jack came to see me. I'm sorry, Rachel, he said, tears in his eyes. I didn't know what to believe, but I know you've always cared about me. I hugged him tightly. All I've ever wanted is for you to be happy and safe. As for Clara, her influence began to wane. Daniel set firm boundaries, and Jack started therapy on his own to process everything. Life didn't immediately return to normal, but it felt like the fog was lifting. For the first time in months, I could see a path forward, not just for me, but for all of us. Clara's manipulations didn't go unnoticed. After the family therapy session, Daniel began addressing her behavior directly, finally acknowledging how her meddling had hurt our family. He limited her visits with Jack and made it clear that her interference was no longer welcome. Jack needs stability, he told her firmly during a follow-up meeting with Dr. Harris. Your intentions might have been good, but your actions have caused nothing but harm. From now on, Rachel and I are making decisions for Jack together. Clara was livid, but her protests fell on deaf ears. The evidence of her manipulations, coupled with Jack's growing awareness of the truth, left her with little room to argue. Jack and I slowly rebuilt our bond. It wasn't easy. Trust takes time, but we found joy in the small moments, movie nights, trips to the park, and quiet conversations about his favorite books. These moments became the foundation of our renewed relationship. Daniel worked hard to make amends, too. He attended therapy sessions with Jack and me, where we discussed everything from his initial doubts to the importance of standing united as a family. I let fear cloud my judgment, Daniel admitted during one session, but I'm ready to do the work to rebuild what I've broken. Months later, our family looked different, but stronger. Clara no longer had the influence she once wielded, and Jack had flourished with the consistency and love he deserved. One sunny Saturday, as we sat in the backyard, Jack turned to me with a shy smile. Rachel, thank you for not giving up on me, he said. I blinked back tears. I'll never give up on you, Jack. We're family, no matter what. Daniel reached for my hand. This is just the beginning for us, he said, and he was right. The road had been rough, but we had emerged on the other side, together.